Christians are being persecuted all over the world. It is the most persecuted religion around the world, across the Middle East, across North Africa. And according to a number of charities, 80% of Christians being persecuted are happening right in Nigeria. So it's a broader issue. It's a Nigeria issue. But for President Trump, this has been really a centerpiece for him going back years. He was the first president, Sean, to host a global gathering at the United Nations of world leaders and say, knock it off with persecuting Christians. We all should be able to worship, whether it's Christian, Muslim, Jewish, the anti-Semitism that you've seen going on. It is a basic fundamental right to worship as you see fit. But President Trump has really taken it on, not only with that gathering, with a task force that he's put together for anti-Christian bias in our own government, and including a faith office that he has operating out of the White House. So God bless him.
All right, guys, a huge show coming your way to end the week. Two big things for you. Congressman Tim Burchett, one of my faves, never disappoints. We're going to break it all down with him. Healthcare, Epstein, affordability, what we need to do to stay in the majority. And then you're going to think this is amazing. Nicki Minaj is teaming up with Mike Waltz. Remember, he was the congressman from Florida, became the national security advisor. Now he's the ambassador at the UN in the Trump cabinet. And he teamed up with Nicki Minaj to call attention to the plight of Christians in Nigeria. It's unbelievable. He's going to join us a little later in the show today. So a lot happening. All right, some housekeeping issues for you. On Monday, if you're a fan of the morning meeting, I'm going to jump on 9 a.m. So we'll just give you a quick political update. So Monday morning, 9 a.m., stay tuned here on my YouTube channel. So make sure you're hitting that subscription and notification button. So we have a lot coming your way next week. But remember, Monday morning, jump on YouTube and I'll kick you off. We'll have a little discussion. I'll read the comments. It's not going to be like the actual morning meeting, but I'll give you a little political update as we head into the Thanksgiving. So that'll be fun. A big shout out today. Thank you to Brian Joseph Morgan. He wrote, "This was the best segment I've ever heard on the subject." He's referring to Jessica Reed Krause's description of what went down with Epstein. So thank you for that. Again, please go across platform. Go listen. If you're a YouTuber or a Rumble person who love the video, thank you. But go over to the Apple and Spotify and hit the subscription there. It's a great backup and it helps us with the show. So, and vice versa. If you love listening in your car on Apple or Spotify, the audio version, go to Rumble, go to YouTube. But again, if you want to keep seeing me do morning stuff, you're going to want to hit that subscription button and tune in live at 9 a.m. on Monday morning. And so anyway, so thank you for all that. Before I get into Congressman Tim Burchett, though, you guys know this. If you've been a long time watcher of the show, you know that I have made the Beam Dream Powder. Here are all the crushed bags. Every night before I go to bed, I take a scoop of Beam's Dream Powder. I put it in some water. I put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. Some people don't. I don't really judge you. If you don't, if I'm traveling, I don't. I just mix it up and take it down. Some people tell me they love it with milk. It doesn't matter. It's all natural. Reishi, apigenin, L-theanine, magnesium, and melatonin in an unbelievable tasty drink. I love the cinnamon. You guys know that. The brownie one's amazing. Peppermint. The flavors are awesome. So right now, we have Beam's Cyber Sale is open for early access for all my listeners. It's their best offer of the year, but it's only 48 hours. So right now, my listeners get this, 50% off. This is Black Friday before Black Friday. You can get Beam right now for the lowest price that we've ever offered it while they've been a sponsor of the show. And it's pretty much been since the beginning, 50% off. So go to shopbeam.com/Spicer, use code Spicer, get up to 50% off during Beam's Cyber Sale. Shopbeam.com/Spicer and code word Spicer for up to 50% off. That is such a great deal. Do not miss on it. And I'm going to urge you to stock up because once you get down to Beam, be like me. You're never, ever changing. It gets you such a great night's sleep. You stay asleep. You wake up feeling refreshed because it's all natural. Beam's Dream Powder. Go to shopbeam.com/Spicer, code word Spicer. All right, but once you wake up and if you're having some eggs or omelet or maybe later today you're having some chicken, steak for dinner, something on the grill, you got to check this thing out. This is the Firecracker Farm Hot Salt. This stuff is a great gift to yourself. If you deserve it, I'm giving you a little go for it. You buy yourself something this holiday season or for the ultimate gift for somebody else in your family, your friends, a coworker. I'm telling you, if they are somebody who loves to grill or bake, they're going to love this thing. It's a small batch hot salt that you can't get anywhere else. You cannot go get this on Amazon or anywhere else. This is a great product. It's small batch, American made seasoning, and it's so cool. You get this savory sensation if heat that kicks in. I can't describe it because I've never seen anything else like this. But it comes, and check this out, it comes in this sleek laser etched stainless push grinder. It's really cool, built to last, and you'll really impress everybody on your list who you want to give it to. So just do me a favor. Go now to firecracker.farm, firecracker.farm. So instead of .com, you're putting .farm, firecracker.farm, and use code SPICER for 10% off your first order. Get it done. Make yourself the envy of everyone else for the greatest gift this year, firecracker.farm. Without further ado, I want to bring in the Congressman from Tennessee, Tim Burchett. Congressman, always good to see you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
So I want to just recap this Epstein thing because you were out there fighting for transparency. Now there's a lot of concerns about potential redactions, what we will see, what we won't. First thing, what are your concerns about what the DOJ may or may not do?
My concerns are some innocent ladies are going to have be put out in the public. For instance, we had a closed door meeting up here several weeks ago, and they had some of the ladies in there and their attorney, and they came in, and it was a bipartisan group, closed door meeting. Probably shouldn't have been closed door, but they all started telling their stories and stuff. And one lady said, "I'm a little different. I think she said I'm listed in there under an anonymous name." And she said, "I blacked out everything in my memory about what happened." You know, God gives you that ability sometimes if something's really that horrific that your mind just blocks it. She said, "I want to go back and read the files and find out what happened to me." And then I asked, it wasn't supposed to be a question and answer, we were just supposed to listen, but I felt compelled to say, "Hey, so you want these files released?" And the attorney said, no, she doesn't. And so there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be innocent people like President Trump who flew on this guy's plane. And the guy was a flagrant name dropper. He collected friends, so he could drop names. And so they're going to be all over this. And the other investigations that I had, these folks they obviously went through this and found out some of this stuff is not accurate. Some of it's bogus, what have you. But now we're not going to get it out. We're just going to get it all just dropped. And there could be, they're wanting pictures, they're wanting things like that. And I mean, you get into pornography and these are children, if they're minors, how do we handle that? There's a lot of problems with this thing.
But don't you think the other problem is that people are going to be suspicious, right? So we've told all these people that are concerned about this, we're going to release all these files. And then I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of people's names in there that maybe it's a witness statement. Maybe it's an email that again, I send emails all the time. I'm sure you do too. And you don't intend for them to be public, right? Meaning that you might say something in an email. And I only say it, not that, that's an excuse, but I'm just saying what's going to happen is you're going to get these redactions for a variety of reasons. And then the general public's going to say, you know what? You guys still covering this up. And we've created a bigger problem than we had at the beginning.
Yeah. It's like the Kennedy files. I mean, I'm 61 years old, and Kennedy assassinated before I was born. And yet we just had a hearing a few weeks back, and some new information was released that indicated there was 2 shooters and the physician said the wounds went like this, entry wounds and exit wounds, and yet no coverage of it. And, if the longer we delay, the more the public will think there's a cover up. And those redacted files, I get into the UFO issue all the time. I just want to know what we're spending this money on. But those dadgum files, Sean, I mean, they look like somebody shot them with a 12-gauge shotgun because that's all they are, is a bunch of holes in them. And there's, they'll say a date and then thank you and then the name or something. I mean, it's just all whited up. And that's exactly what I'm afraid we're going to see with this. There's not going to be any any joy in Mudville when it's all released. I really like Chairman Comer because he's so dadgum honest. I don't like the fact he's from Kentucky and not Tennessee, but I forget that's his deal. But he was we've gone through 50,000, I think, pages so far of going through because they were releasing them and they were redacting names. I feel like that's the way to do it. If it was if we could add some sort of bipartisan effort, but I mean, I don't trust anybody up here anyway. So why should the American public, brother?
Let me just looking back on it. Could this have been handled better?
100%. If we had just released them in the beginning, you had 3 Democrat appointed judges that blocked Trump's ability to do that. And the Justice Department, I don't trust the Justice Department as far as I can throw the dome off the Capitol. So I can't imagine, I like the people we got in charge, but that, you've been around this town a lot longer than I have. The layers of that dadgum onion are multifaceted. So we peel them back and there's still, there's another one. It's never ending and no one will ever trust what we do.
Yeah. So you guys send this over to the Senate and they sneak this provision in that says these senators who got their phone tapped each get like $500,000. I know the speaker was a little miffed. What did you think of that move?
I thought it was a cheap move. I just, no. I don't mind busting the justice. I don't mind busting their ass, but they should have done it in their own bill. And again, nobody trusts government for good reason because we continuously, and who did it? And everybody's pointing the other direction. Nobody knows who did it. And nobody, I trust some of the people that are involved in it. My own Senator Marsha Blackburn, I trust her. But, I worry about it. My brother and I were talking about it, and he said, do you think you were bugged? And I said, I hope so. And he said, oh, no. And I said, why is that? And he said, because we were talking about at our funeral, did we want the live version of Freebird or the in-studio version? I preferred the live. He preferred the in-studio. So, there's going to be a lot of discussion about that, I'm sure, too. But all kidding aside, I mean, these people are spying on Americans and senators. If they can spy on a senator, imagine what they can do to you or me.
I agree. First of all, I'm with you. Just, live version every time. You always got to go live. The studio version. Anyway, I digress. Here's the issue I have, just so we're clear. These guys were spied on, and they're giving themselves $500,000 a piece because as like a, peace offering. And I look and I go, do you know how many people's lives got turned upside down because of the Mueller investigation? I don't want to tell you what my tab was, and I was just a witness. But I'm like, those are real costs. These senators, yes, I'm with it. I get it. I'd be pissed if I got spied on by the government too. But they gave themselves $500,000 as sort of a reward or as a fine, whereas there are real people who went through the Mueller investigation that have real legal bills, and no one seems to be looking out for them. And to me, this whole instance was a bunch of senators looking out for themselves and not worrying about anybody else.
I think it's tone deaf. You're exactly right. And those people's lives were ruined. I used to have a mulch business, and you can Google it. But I remember I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal expenses. Somebody else wanted the business. They accused me of taking toxic waste. I mean, it was unbelievable. And my life was technically, I wasn't bankrupted because I didn't declare bankruptcy, but I was out. Everything I had gone. And that's exactly, and the same with these people. And they've been drugged through the mud. They have had the cameras in their faces. Their families have been ostracized, and yet nothing for them. I think that is especially those J6ers. A lot of those folks were just standing on us in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then they had to plead guilty to a felony to get their ass out of federal penitentiary. I mean, that whole thing it stinks, the top to bottom. And those senators, if they find out who did it, they need to primary them and they need to get them out, because I'm sick of that stuff.
Yeah, it just, to me, it reeked of like, I mean, you had a quote this week that I thought was so good. you said it's DC's not a swamp because God made swamps. It's a sewer. And I was like, that is spot on. And that was sewer behavior. That was, we're going to take care of ourselves and screw everyone else. Anyway, the other thing that I appreciate that your efforts on is this member stock trading thing. And I know that this is moving forward. Just tell us where it is right now. Where is this ban on members being able to trade stocks?
Okay, it went to the committee of jurisdiction yesterday, I guess, and I felt really good about them hearing it. But you know, this town, they're going to run the clock out, and it's bipartisan for it. I mean, there's not too many dadgum bills where me and Luna are standing up there with Paul and AOC and singing Kumbaya, but dadgum, this is one of them, and it's bipartisan, but the hatred of the bill is bipartisan too. Go on the Unusual Whales website, look at the top 100. Heck, everybody wants to rail on Pelosi. She's not even in the top 10, brother.
Really?
She's like number 11. I mean,
what's the site? What's the site again?
It's called Unusual Whales, like the mammal that swims in the sea. Whale, WHALES. I realize you got a funny accent and can't understand what I say. So,
if it makes you feel better, my wife's from Nashville, so I speak a little Tennessee, but not Western.
That's all right. I can be your translator. I'll go with you so you won't get beat up by somebody in a cowboy hat. Hey, no, but you've got members making 500-600 trades a year, maybe a month. Sometimes it's crazy numbers, and of course they know what's going on. Here's the funny thing. I make skateboards, okay? It's cheaper than a psychiatrist. I gave one to Tulsi Gabbard the other day. I took one to a Republican club up in Campbell County. The auction went off. It went for $700. I was like, dadgum, I need to get out of Congress. I need to be making skateboards. But so everybody in the country wants one right now. I'm thinking it'd be cool, a Burchett board. I'll make them out my barn. I have insomnia. Okay, I get you one, Sean. You're there.
Right. I'll put you on
the list. But the problem, and so I go see these cats down in ethics, and this attorney says, well, you got to get a business plan. You got to do this. I got to get an attorney. And I said, wait a minute. I can do insider stock trading, but I can't sell dadgum skateboards. And he said, basically, yes. So, that's where we're at. It's crooked as a dog's leg. Everybody knows it, and we're going to get up there. And I said yesterday, we're not going to pass this dadgum, or we'll pass it, and the Senate will pass a tougher version. And then we'll get it back over here. Oh, we can't do that. And we'll say, oh, those old senators, they're 100 years old. And they'll say, oh, that Wild West over in the House. And then they'll all just laugh and keep making 300%, 400%, 500% return on their investments. And I will give you one great example. When Russia invaded Ukraine, Joe Biden, I haven't voted for a penny for it. That's not our dadgum war. I'm not for it, but I will tell you. So Biden gives them our missile defense system, gives Ukraine. So immediately we had to replenish our missile defense because we can't be naked. Right. That's non-debatable. I agree with that. But guess what? 2 weeks prior to him making that announcement, we've got members of our committee that ended up, oh, hey, I'm going to buy stock in this missile defense company. Members, both sides of the aisle, brother. You tell me. And then I got to hear about, well, the war in Ukraine is good for America. I said, really, why? Oh, it's good for business, And I'm like, dude, my daddy fought in the Second World War. My mama lost her brother. There ain't nothing good about war. It's brutal. I had to wake my daddy up by his big toe to the day he died because I usually wake up thinking he was on Peleliu or Okinawa, and some Japanese soldier was leaning up against him. And so I can't buy that. The only thing that's good for is sending kids to their graves. And I just can't go that route. But that's Washington D.C. and it needs to be exposed.
So when I went to the White House, and I'd never had a lot of like stocks, but after the Dow burst, I don't know, a bunch of day trading stuff in the 90s, I started doing this thing called drip stocks. So I would send $50 to $100, and I think it was like Coke, Merck. I said, I'm done day trading. Anyway, that's another story. But the bottom line is I said, I'll just send $100 a month to these direct, you could literally like Coca-Cola, GE,
Right.
Merck. And so I had built up, I don't know, let's call it $15,000, $16,000 in 4 or 5 companies over, let's call it, well over 10 years. Okay. I get to the White House and they said, okay, here's the deal. You are not allowed to own any individual stock over $10,000. You have to sell them all. And then you can buy a qualified mutual fund, right? So Vanguard, Templeton, I don't know, whatever it was.
Right.
And that way the market goes up, you do well, the market goes down, you're screwed. But like, you have nothing, there's nothing that you're personally invested in, so that you can't say, gosh, I got to make sure the government gives a deal to Coca-Cola versus Pepsi or something.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, okay, this kind of sucks, because to me, it was personal. I built something up over 10 years and I didn't have a lot of money, but okay, those are the rules. So you sell everything, it goes into a mutual fund. Why can't Congress just do that? Which is great. You want to play the market, invest in a mutual fund, and if it does well, you do well. But this idea that somehow the executive branch employees have to do one thing, but members of Congress who have literally inside information, to your point about when we're going to war, what company's going to get a subsidy in the next tax bill, I don't know why this is that difficult.
It's because we're greedy and we think we know more than the American public, and 12% of the population votes. That's basically it. I remember when they passed term limits in Knox County, my home county, and we and the office holders said that doesn't apply to us, and then they got taken to court, and the courts ruled it back it did. And I remember they were interviewing an elected official at the courthouse, and I literally thought it was a joke. I mean, I was 25 years old and I was politically in tune, because one of the elected officers says, "Yeah, I just don't know if Knox County is going to be able to function without us." And that's the mentality of this bunch up here. There's 350,000 people that are probably more qualified back in East Tennessee to do this job for me. I'm just stupid enough to risk it all every 2 years. So I get it. But wow. Yeah, this town is infinitely broken. It is a sewer, and we are crooked as a dog's leg. And if these people can make 500-600% return every year, dadgummit, Sean, they ought to go work on Wall Street, not here. They ought to put their money in a mutual fund like I do with my buddy Tommy Seiler in Knoxville, and my $11,000 mutual fund that I had to cash out because I had to pay for a year of my daughter's school. They ought to do that. You're exactly right. And mutual funds are great. Man, they make great money, and By
the way, you do know that like they can't go to Wall Street, because on Wall Street it's called insider trading. You can't do what they did. If they actually left Congress, they'd be screwed, because that's the thing is that my biggest concern about Nancy Pelosi leaving Congress is I won't know what to buy anymore. But from what I hear from you, I got to go to this website now, and I got 9 other people that I can follow.
Right. There's 100 of them right there. You can just get right on it and follow, find out what committees they're on and talk to them, and I'm sure they will fill you in on everything.
I want to touch on something that's probably near and dear to people in Tennessee's heart, which is this new buzzword that the president keeps talking about: affordability. What can and should Congress do? I mean, it's funny. I was listening to Zoran Mondami talk about his meeting with the president, and he said, buses cost $2.90 in New York, and I'm like, you think the president has anything to do with that? And so the question is, what can or should Congress be doing to make life more affordable?
Reduce regulation on energy, our energy sector. We need nukes, we need coal, we need oil. God put it in the ground. Let's get it out. Let's use it in a responsible manner. We've got to get the environmental crowd out of our business, because they are owned by foreign interests. Case in point, coal. They come over here, they fund through these lobbyists or what have you. They say, oh, coal's bad. And we sign some bogus treaty. And then, of course, China doesn't follow it. India doesn't follow it. Russia doesn't follow it. And then we're behind the 8 ball, and that air doesn't stop once it leaves one of their 1950s technology coal-fired plants in China. It's over here. It's kind of like a unchlorinated end of a pool. I don't think that quite works very well. And I mean, and that it's just those kind of obvious things. If we could free up the energy and tell those cats over the Middle East they can eat their oil and their sand, we're going to get it all right here, and let's get it all right here. And I think that would be first. I think also supporting this Tom Homan, I've called my spirit animal, when he's throwing all these illegals out of the country. There's a lot of criminals, some of them aren't. But, our schools are full of kids with ESL, English second language. Housing's full, all that. They'll put 15 in an apartment and the prices go up. Those are the kind of things I think. I mean, it's just simple. It's simple economics, and we need to start doing it. Granted, we got to have people that work, and that's kind of going to be a rub with some folks. Well, under Reagan, we had a pretty good system, but like every good system of government, it gets abused. And a worker visa type program is the way to go. And we know we can monitor it. We have in the past. But under Biden and all that stuff, that's nonsense. I talk to my farmers, and it's just the paperwork and all the craziness. I mean, of course, they're going to bring in folks illegally. That's the market. It's just, and we got to quit doing business with these countries that are bad actors. We got to tell China. And everybody's on Trump about these dadgum tariffs, but shoot, son, those folks are using slave labor to compete against us. We can't compete with that. And Trump's right. You got to hit them where it hurts, and they'll come to the table. And that's what they're doing right now. They're coming to the table. Yeah. It's just going to take some time, and people are going to hurt for a while. And I hate that. But again, you can't keep subsidizing this stuff. We're $38 trillion in debt. Eventually that note's going to come due, and it's not going to be a pretty day.
Speaking of that, the president has floated this idea of like rebate checks where you get like $2,000 based off the tariff dividend. But I agree with you. I'm like, we're $38 trillion in debt. If we have some extra money, let's pay that down. Do you think that your colleagues are taking the rebate thing seriously?
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah,
Really?
they are. I can remember. This is crazy when you said this. When COVID was coming down, we weren't really sure what's going to happen. I remember I was walking behind AOC and Maxine Waters.
Sorry about that.
And I sit on what I call Center's Row, second to the end, and right there on the aisle. Everybody gets in trouble, they sit with me. And they walk by me, and I remember them saying, what we ought to do is just give everybody $1,000 check. And I thought to myself, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. That was when COVID was just starting. Looking back, I wish that's all we'd have done, and we'd have saved ourselves a heck of a lot of money. But yeah, I'm with you. 38 trillion in debt, although it would just be a tick off of it, a chink out of the corner. We got to start thinking in that and America can't keep looking at us like we're some endless cash register, because the other side is, they don't care. They're going to wreck our system. I think that's part of the design of all of it. Bernie wouldn't let anybody amend anything on Obamacare. That would have made it on the Senate side. It's a nightmare to think that he'd control any committee of anything other than the committee of communism, I guess, or Marxism. But anyway. See, now I was in a great mood. I was kind of tired. Now I'm all worked up.
Well, I'll work you up a little more. I think there's no question. I've said this: healthcare sucks. Like you can't get an appointment with your doctor. Something's not covered. Most guys won't take insurance. And we've now realized that Obamacare we've known Obamacare was a massive disaster. The Democrats tried to subsidize it. That didn't work. What is the Republican plan? Are we going to do something, or are we just going to tinker?
We're going to gripe about it, and everybody's going to stop every bill that comes out. We got no guts. I tell you, Andy, not Andy, but out of Alabama, he's got Bill 1776. I talked to him this morning in the gym. I talk to him about it every morning. He's got a bill that's out there, and he's got no pride in authorship. And I think that we got to start moving some legislation, get it to the table. The money changers in all this you can go back and look at that in the biblical standpoint, but the money changers in all this are the insurance companies. What would be wrong with putting the patients and the doctors in the same room? Trump came up and said that, and everybody's like, oh, you can't. Yeah, you can. You just have a fund set up, and you've got due to your economic situation, area of the country, inflation. There's things you take into consideration, but you say, hey, I got to do this. I got 3 kids. I get this amount. My kid's got to get his appendix taken out. Boom. You push the button. That's what you're going to do. That's where your money goes. And this deal we got now is a joke. It's a joke. It drives me freaking crazy. We've lost hospitals under this thing. And the media's in on it because they're so far to the left they can't stand it. but they're being exposed. That's why there's more people watching us right now than are probably watching any of the other idiots out there. Not that you're an idiot, but I am. But anyway, it seems to me it's not that complicated. And that bill, when it passed, I remember seeing a picture of it. It was like this, but if you stacked it up, and it was over. I'm 6'1". It was taller than I was. The entire bill that dealt with that. Pelosi was right. They had to pass it to know what was in it. But that government, we found out what was in it. We thought it stunk, and it it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You couldn't. It was not portable. You couldn't choose your physician. Everybody's like, well, I got insurance, but I got a $6,000 deductible. I mean, literally, I used to sell insurance, and I can remember when it was in the 90s actually, and early 90s, you could buy a 30-year-old male something around $30 to $40 a month.
Yeah.
And then I remember when it went to $100 a month, I thought, man, I got to get out of this. Ain't nobody gonna be able to afford this business.
And now it's like 1,000.
Yeah, easily if you're lucky, so it's a nightmare, and we've created it. And just look at and then you look at in the Senate. Look at all these liberals in the Senate who are getting bankrolled in their campaigns by the insurance. It's tens of millions of dollars they're getting. If you do the research, it's pathetic. They ought to have to wear a sponsored jacket like NASCAR or something.
God, I love that. That would, what would be awesome if members of Congress wore a jacket and all the corporate sponsors. Yeah, I think this is I like that. When you go on the floor, you have to wear the jacket that has all of your sponsors on it. I love this. All right. So if we don't have a deal on healthcare for a while, then January 30th rolls around and we're going to shut the government down again. Is that the plan?
I think that's the plan of the Democrats. They pulled back a nub, and the best plan we got, the Democrats have is the Republican messaging, because it stinks. We got to get better at that. We got to get on the internet and figure out how to. I put a video out the other day and it got over 4 million views. And I talked to our conference about messaging, and I get a call the other day. They didn't want me to go on somebody's show on CNN or something. And I'm like, I'm gonna take the fight to them, dude. Go get one of these other pansies out here that are gonna, I don't care. I'm sick of it. I go to these Republican clubs. I said, preachers, y'all need to start preaching the gospel, and men and women. When you're when you're at work and somebody runs your country down, or you're president and they're wrong, you correct them. You don't have to be a jerk about it. But I'm tired of it, man. Sean, we're going to lose our dadgum country. Reagan said we're one generation away. Brother, we're one vote series away. If the Republicans lose the majority in these primaries, it's Katie bar the door. You'll see New York, because that's what's taken over the Democrat Party. That shutdown was more about Schumer trying to show the left wing that he's no communist. He's a left winger. He needs to go back to his porch and flip raw hamburgers with cheese on them. But that gummit, he doesn't, and all that was about was AOC. I saw her last week. I said, Cortez, you're running, aren't you? And she smiled. And she announces today, Sean, she'll raise $10 million.
Oh, 100%.
The dot-commers and all those kids, they will pour out. And I've warned our guys, and we just don't get it. We don't get it.
No,
that's what's coming to America.
By the way, I appreciate how you take the fight to CNN and others, because you are polite, you're respectful. People miss the point here. We got to go to those places, but we can win on the facts. And I think you do a great job doing that. But my last question for you is actually, you speak about the elections and what's happening. On December 2nd, a little west of you, there is a special election in Tennessee for a seat that was vacated.
Yep.
Kamala Harris was down there, and that is considered a very Trump district. Are you concerned about us holding or barely holding on to this very, very Republican district in Tennessee?
100%. The guy's name's Matt Van Epps. He's a great candidate.
I wish you hadn't said that. I was hoping you were going to make me feel, but now you've got me feeling bad.
Well, that's why I tell people, pray for our country. They are dumping millions in. It's dark money. It's behind the scenes. They're pulling out all the plugs, and we better, the Republican Party too much is about bluegrass and barbecue. I love that, but I worry about it because we've got it's all on this thing right now. Yep. You know, who's March's guy? Who's his campaign manager? Floyd. Yeah, my buddy Ward Baker.
Yeah,
I saw him one time when Marsha Blackburn was first running for the Senate. He came in. It was at Buddy's banquet hall. And all the beautiful people there, and somehow I must have slipped in. I don't know what, they didn't have their white trash quota, I guess. So I come rolling in there. And he said, and Ward says, we're not going, somebody asked him about advertising. He said, well, we're not going traditional television. We're going on the internet, and all this stuff. And I thought, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. She's going to get beat. This ain't right. But, because I didn't understand. I knock on doors. I knock on thousands. It's hard to beat me on. You got to break my legs because the big boys never give me money. They always call me the day after the election. Oh, come by and get a check, Tim. And I go, we were with you all along. Yeah, I really felt it right there towards the end. But Ward Baker described the process and how they would contact people and they would contact them on the internet and they could target ads. I mean, it was, and I was just fascinated. It was new to me. I didn't understand it. And frankly, I still don't. I just get people that do, young people. But he understood that, and he won a race that he probably, and Marsha won against a very popular former Democrat governor who was a moderate. And so, I think we better start paying attention to that stuff and the old traditional, billboards and phone banks and stuff. And the Democrats understand that. And that's what scares me, Sean. I'm sorry it took me so long, but it was, but I remember Ward did that, and I thought, and I've tried to adhere to that along with my door knocking. But yeah, I'm worried about that race.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up. I appreciate you being with us. Fun conversation. I hope you come back soon.
Anytime, Sean. I always look. Every time I'm on with you, I'm out in the woods somewhere, and somebody said, I seen you on that Sean Spicer show. It's like I seen him at the Walmart. But anyway, thanks, brother.
You bet. Take care. Great conversation with Congressman Burchett. I want to bring in now former Congressman, current ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, to talk about what's going on up there at the UN to call attention to the plight of Christians in Nigeria. Ambassador, good to see you again. How you doing?
Good to be with you, Sean. We've hit the ground running up in the United Nations. On the one hand, we're cleaning house. We're kind of dozing the place. On the other hand, we need to put a big spotlight on a lot of the president's priorities.
Yeah, well, here's one that I wouldn't have had on my bingo card. This issue that's going on in Nigeria with Christians. I saw you've done a great job of highlighting what's happening there. Just for people who are hearing this for the first time, explain what's happening in Nigeria with Christians there.
Well, it's about 50-50 Muslim and Christian in Nigeria, which, by the way, is the most populous country in Africa and the 6th most populous in the world. So very densely populated, mixed from a Muslim and Christian standpoint. But the problem is there's dozens of terrorist groups, including one a lot of people may have heard of, Boko Haram, that are ISIS affiliated, Al-Qaeda affiliated, and are literally murdering, raping, pillaging, burning churches, and have a full genocide ongoing against Christians in that country. So that's kind of the broader picture. A lot of people are hearing about this right now for the first time, but this isn't new to President Trump. During his first term, he raised this as an issue with the Nigerian government, told them they need to do better to protect Christians and religious liberties. And when they didn't, he designated them under U.S. law what's called a country of particular concern, which allows us to do things like withhold aid, sanctions, and other diplomatic tools. But it really puts the Nigerian government on notice. He did it his first term, and guess what? The Biden team lifted all of that. Shocker. Remember, they also lifted the terrorist designation on the Houthis. And so the terrorists took that as a green light. And now we've seen just in the past year, literally, Sean, Bibles being burned, churches being burned, congregations being machine gunned in their churches, priests beheaded, and the most gruesome thing in my mind as a father, little girls being abducted, forced to become ISIS brides, and sold into sex slavery. It is despicable. The government has to do more. And thank God for President Trump, who's leaning into protecting Christians around the world.
So when you talk to the other ambassadors from the other countries, are they aware? Are they helping? Or is this a U.S. issue that we're dealing with on our own?
Yeah, they're aware, but there's nothing like U.S. leadership, right? And nothing like President Trump's leadership, because you know what? People know there will be consequences if they don't come along. So that's one piece. But I think the bigger picture is Christians are being persecuted all over the world. It is the most persecuted religion around the world, across the Middle East, across North Africa. And according to a number of charities, 80% of Christians being persecuted are happening right in Nigeria. So it's a broader issue. It's a Nigeria issue. But for President Trump, this has been really a centerpiece for him going back years. He was the first president, Sean, to host a global gathering at the United Nations of world leaders and say, knock it off with persecuting Christians. We all should be able to worship, whether it's Christian, Muslim, Jewish, the anti-Semitism that you've seen going on. It is a basic fundamental right to worship as you see fit. But President Trump has really taken it on, not only with that gathering, with a task force that he's put together for anti-Christian bias in our own government, and including a faith office that he has operating out of the White House. So God bless him for taking this on. But it is most egregious around the world in Nigeria.
Why has an issue like this gotten so little attention? I mean, I would assume that regardless of what other countries, that there'd be a lot of like media attention on an issue like this.
Well, Sean, I mean, we could probably spend a couple hours talking about the bias in the mainstream media, right? I mean, I'm up in New York at the United Nations. How many protests did we see over the plight of the Palestinians? We haven't heard a peep over the plight of Christians. You even go back, if you remember, Christians in Iraq, when under the Obama administration, ISIS came roaring through and they were being persecuted, chased out of their home and slaughtered then. So I think there is just a broader left-wing bias, frankly, that we see in our conversation, not only nationally, but around the world on the plight of Christians. And again, we could probably have a longer conversation on the oppressed and oppressor and, all of that kind of Marxist left-wing ideology, but it's pervasive. It's not getting the attention that it's due. And that's why I think so many people were so grateful, not only to see President Trump bring this up again, but then to see a rap superstar, a celebrity like Nicki Minaj say, thank you, President Trump. People should be able to worship as they please. It's a fundamental right. And then she took it a step further. I invited her to come here to the United Nations to hear from experts on religious liberties. And she accepted. That is, I think, a phenomenal, courageous act on her part. I told her that it would be easy to sit back and, the easiest action is inaction. But she really stepped forward in a huge way.
I was going to ask you about that. So you guys reached out to her because you knew that she cared about the issue. Is that how it came to? I mean, because when I saw the B-roll shots of you and Nicki Minaj, I was like, okay, I did not see that coming. So did you guys just exactly so did your staff say to you, or did you know of her interest in this? How did that relationship happen, and where does it go from here? Are you guys now texting buddies, or like how do we keep her involved in this issue?
Well, number one, I'm proud to say I'm now an honorary ambassador to Barbie Nation, which are all of her followers. You have Swifties that follow Taylor Swift. She has what she calls the Barbs. But listen, in all seriousness, she is one of the most followed women in the world. This is a whole swath of people that may not be paying attention to this issue that now are. And as a person of faith, I'm just incredibly grateful that she has taken this on, number one. Number two, how did it come about? I have to give credit to our mutual friend, Alex Bruesewitz, who saw her responding to the president and said, Mike, the United Nations is a global forum. You have so many countries involved. As we were just saying, this shouldn't just be the United States calling this out. This should be a collective cry for the world. This isn't about politics or taking sides. This is a moral imperative. This is just about doing the right thing. So, I threw it out there and invited her, and she accepted. And we just had an amazing panel. Harris Faulkner came and moderated it. And we had a pastor call in from Nigeria. And keep in mind, Sean, when they go public like that, they're putting their lives on the line. He called in from Nigeria and talked about the atrocities that are happening. The day before the panel, 25 schoolgirls were kidnapped out of their school and disappeared. The day after, and this video is online, you saw gunmen barge into a church and start killing people with AK-47s as they're worshiping. And this is happening on a daily basis by a lot of charities. Are saying literally thousands and thousands of churches have been burned in the most recent years. And our demand of the Nigerian government is enough. You need to step it up, and you need to protect your people. You need to protect these religious minorities.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm going to call Bruesewitz and get myself a little Nicki Minaj on the show or something. Hey, Ambassador.
Can I just throw one more thing that I just think is incredibly disgusting, and I just called them out for this. It won't surprise you. Back to the issue of why is the world so silent on it. Rolling Stone is rolling this kind of ridiculous headline of Nicki Minaj spreading misinformation.
What?
When there is a body of actual video, there are people coming online, pastors, ministers, worshipers, talking about their loved ones that have been executed literally for wearing a cross. We just had a woman, she just came on another network and talked about 110 girls that were kidnapped. 109 were forced to read the Quran. Her daughter refused to denounce Jesus and is still being held captive 7 years later. So these stories are very real, and shame on these media outlets for, one, trying to say it's not, and then two, trying to smear her name for having the courage to give voice to the voiceless.
Just to be clear, Rolling Stone is claiming that the atrocities are not occurring.
They're claiming, and they're trying to smear her, our mission here, and everyone else, saying it's misinformation, that, Muslims are being killed as well. And that is absolutely true. But there is a huge body of evidence that Christians are specifically targeted for their faith. Unreal.
Well, Ambassador, I appreciate you taking the time to give us the forum to spread the word on what you're doing. Congratulations on your newfound friendship. And I'm going to have to download some of that this weekend so I can catch up and become one of the Barbs or Barbies or whatever.
That's it. Okay. I'll see you in pink next time.
All right. Ambassador Mike Waltz, thanks for everything you're doing up there in New York for us.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. Guys, thanks for tuning in. A great show. Go to my newsletter, SeanSpicer.com, to get the free copy today. I got something on healthcare that you're going to want to see. Remember, Monday morning, tune in at 9 for a quick political update. Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.